You should have one. Everyone should have one. What is it? It is the AK that we would belovingly refer to as a krink. And I get it. The AK guys are already mad at me. Why? Because they're like, that clearly has a mag in it for 7.62 by 39. I get it. So let me just go ahead and start this video by cleaning things up, because inside of the AK market, it is it's massively complex. Okay, when we refer to, say, hey, I'm gonna go buy a new AR, well, that's pretty straightforward. You're gonna go buy an AR-15. It's gonna be, 223 Wild or 5.56. What, like, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's like, hey, well, what barrel length and what optic are you putting on it? If you say, hey, I'm going to get a new AK, you're like, well, what kind of AK? Is it a 47? Is it a 74? Is it in 223? Like what is it a krink? Is it what? I mean, the rabbit hole of AKs. I would consider myself kind of sort of an AK guy. I say that because, man, if you talk to real AK guys, they really nerd out on this shit. I don't really nerd out on it. I simply love AKs, have a few, and enjoy shooting them. So let's talk about this, which would be a M92, or I am mostly going to refer to it as a krink. Like I said, the AK guys are going to be mad at me, because what is a krink? Well, a krink is technically a AKS 74U, which would be chambered in 5.45, and it would have an 8-inch barrel. The Krinkov, which from my understanding, I believe is the last name of the gentleman who came up with that design. Again, you guys can fight me on that one in the comments on anything that I have wrong, but that would be a technical krink. This would be what we sort of lovingly refer to as a krink, which is really any short barrel AK. Technically, it's an M92, which is actually going to be the model from Zastava Arms, which is over in Serbia. And I can't really tell you anything that comes from Serbia, minus some AKs. There's, I don't know, something. I mean, there's something else that comes from Serbia. I just have no idea what it is. But pretty much any short barrel AK, we're going to lovingly refer to as a krink. And it is, in my opinion, one of those guns that you simply must have. So let's take a little tour of my krink. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff that you already know what to do. In terms of how you can support our channel, we try to keep this thing as free and organic and fun as possible. So we don't ask for anything other than just support our company when you need us. What is it that you do? Thanks for asking. Actually in the real estate services world. So we operate in Utah, parts of Florida, Texas, Arizona. So if you're buying, selling a house, or if you have a buddy or something like that, contact us. You can go to the website, shoot us an email, shoot us a DM on Instagram. We'll have all that stuff below. And yeah, we'll get back to you. We actually see and check messages. So thanks for the support, and we'll see you guys soon. Okay, so my particular krink comes from a company called Joe Firearms. Now, that is a local company here in Utah. When I first moved to Utah, I moved here from California, and of course, when I moved here, I was like, well, one of the first things I do is get some guns that you couldn't get in California. Even though I was into guns in California, it's just different rules in a free state, right? So I went over to Joe Firearms and literally bought an AK on the spot, because frankly, they did really good work. I say did. Joe Firearms is really not in existence. Like, they previously were. I do believe, I'm giving you this clarification in case you wind up seeing this and you're like, hey, how do I get one? My understanding from just sending a message to the owner the other day, hey, we still do exist. We don't have the shop like we used to, but people can reach out and we could actually still build them in AK. They did AR and Cerakotes and some other stuff like that. In my opinion, the thing where they actually really shined was on AKs. So Joe Firearms, you can reach out if you've got any specific questions that I cannot answer for you in the comments. But let's walk through a little bit about what this bad boy is. So it started out in life as really a base M92. Okay, so it was just bought as a pistol. It does not have a pistol stock or anything. It's just a, you know, it's just an end plate there, and it's very, very basic, very simple machine. Okay, what I wanted in this, and again, this is, I think everyone should have a krink, and I'll go through some of the reasons why I think that here in a minute. But I wanted something that had modern touches, but it still felt very classic. That's what I was going for. Okay, so some of the stuff that we did, man, there's actually a bunch of different stuff going on here. Okay, so first things first, this is an SBR, as you will tell from the stock, but it's got a Law tactical side folder on it. So the benefit of that, of course, is, look, that is a quite small package that, especially in this era where like sub guns are really hot right now, so hot. Sub guns are just crushing it. That, to tell you the truth, is not that much bigger than a lot of the sub guns, and that could fit in a backpack or certainly a vehicle or something like that, and it's pretty cool. So we do have a side folder on that. As previously stated, it's SBR'd, so we've got a Magpul stock on there. QD mounts, I typically just run that as a 1-point, just because I'm too lazy to figure out the 2-point mounting solution on this. Some of the other stuff, so this was their trigger that they put in that. The trigger, look, on AK triggers, you're very rarely, the only triggers that I've felt on AKs were like, wow, that is an excellent trigger. I mean, like by any trigger standards would be the ALG triggers. I've heard different things from different builders. I know some builders like them, some builders don't. I've heard that it's the ALG Ultimate that is the one that's not really recommended in AKs. So, you know, the gun industry is one of those things, you hear so many different things. Sometimes you're like, dude, I don't know what's true and what's not. I'm just telling you different things that I hear. This trigger is one that specifically they made at Joe Firearms at their shop. It's you know, there's no real take up on it. Like there's no slack before you hit that wall. So you're just pretty much on that wall right away. And it's just a nice steady pull. And the reset's very audible. It's a nice trigger. It's not as good as an ALG for the AK fans who run a lot of those. It's not as good as that, but it's certainly a hell of a lot better than a stock trigger. I've never had a reliability issue with it. It's always been very, very smooth. And I have to admit that I am partial to flat triggers compared to that steep trigger shoe on just like a standard G2 AK trigger. So there's that. Trigger is good. Some of the other stuff going on, this is just, you know, this is almost like just kind of basic tour shit for people who are not really familiar with AKs. These safeties. So you'll notice that little notch in these safeties. That is so that, hey, if you were at a training course or at a range day or something, and they're like, hey, everyone lock your bolt back and show clear, and you're like, sir, I can't do that. I ain't got no way to lock back my AK bolt. This is just a way to be able to do that. And the cool thing with that, of course, is if you had that locked bolt, or if you had your bolt locked back, obviously it's not going to do that on last round because it's an AK and they don't do that. But if you put in your mag, it's going to drop the bolt automatically. So cool, now you're back in business. It's just a cool little feature. Is it something that I ever used? To be perfectly honest, not really. The only thing that I would benefit from on that safety would be, I believe it's from Krebs, that makes the sort of extended, which as a righty, just something where, hey, unless you've got giant hands, yeah, you know, I could kind of get to that if I was a righty, but the Krebs ones have an extra notch right there that just really helps in terms of getting that gun on and off safe. The action's really cleaned up, so you've just got a, again, for, you know, if you're used to high-end 1911s or, Gucci ARs and stuff like that, you're probably like, oh, that sounds like shit. That sounds really good for an AK, actually. Okay, so we've got that. Probably my favorite feature of this gun is the magwell. So why more people don't do this, I could not tell you. So it's frankly a pretty prominent magwell that's on that gun. And if you reload AK-47s, right, which is going to be chambered in 7.62, you're going to know, hey, the steep angle of that magazine can be a real bitch, okay? And I know people are like, what's he cussing on this channel for? You know, sometimes it happens. It can be a real bitch to reload these things here and there, because you've got to find that perfect angle where that magazine notches in and then it locks in. That magwell, I will tell you, a lot of magwells, sometimes you're just like, yeah, it kind of helps. It's nothing really notable. It's like cool if you have it, it's fine if you don't. This magwell really makes a difference. It's welded under the gun, so it's not like if you don't like it, you're just easily popping it off. Like, it is now integral to the gun itself, but man, it really helps just guide that mag into place. And it is a notable feature that I've been quite fond of as I've owned this gun for the past few years. This is not a new gun. This is a gun I've had for a while now. Again, wanting it to be a bit more classic, well, modern. We've got top rails. We'll start there. So we've got a little optic mount back here. I've never used this for anything, along with our iron sights that, again, never really get used for me. An Ultimac rail, which is pretty industry standard to have Ultimacs for your top rail for mounting optics lights. You don't obviously have a ton of real estate, being that this is a 10-inch barrel, okay? So this is a 10-inch chrome line barrel, right? So this is actually a pretty damn good barrel, all things considered. And given that I have wood as my handguard, because again, I wanted to keep it a bit classy and traditional, but I wanted to do the modern shit that I wanted to do with it. I was like, look, I need to be able to mount optics lights, but I like wood. I like the aesthetic of it. What guy, I mean, seriously, what guy sees wood on anything and you're like, get rid of the wood? Like, what's wrong with you, dude? Like, what? No, like, wood makes everything more cool, right? So that wood's been, you know, refinished and stained and everything, like, and it really looks good. And what's also cool about wood on AKs, actually really helps dissipate heat. As opposed to, hey, look, as I was running and gunning with this thing earlier, you're touching the wood, your hand's fine. I mean, you'll notice I wasn't even wearing a glove running this today. And to be perfectly honest, that was just an oversight on my part. Usually I'm wearing a glove on my support hand as I'm running AKs, because that top rail gets hot as shit. And if you're like grabbing your, rails or whatever you got here, and your thumb has cooled now, and your thumb makes contact with that top rail, you're gonna regret it, okay? You're gonna be like, that was a mistake, should have been wearing gloves. So just be aware, there's a pro and a con. Ultimac, sure, you get to mount shit. The con is it's gonna get smoking hot really quick. But that said, even with that relatively small rail on a 10-inch barrel, I get everything that I need up there. This is not a nods gun or anything like that. So, hey, look, all I need on my shit is light and optic. I'm pretty simple. I don't like a bunch of shit, even though it looks cool. I like relatively simple stuff. So optic, light. I know some people are gonna be like, dude, why didn't you get a Surefire or something like, you know, mod light or whatever with the pressure pad? One, I really don't have room for it. And frankly, for the way that I run this gun, that light, honestly, it works perfectly fine for me, okay? So that's just, you know, take that for my 2 cents. At the end there, again, if you're not really into AKs, what the hell is that? It's a Bulgarian four-piece flash hider, okay? Pretty effective on shorty AKs for reducing muzzle flash. It's hot today, guys. If I start slurring words, just remember, you asked for this. Well, you probably didn't ask for this, but you're getting it anyway. So anyway, aside from being pretty effective, it's easily the cool, like on the cool points for a muzzle device. Like, come on, takes the cake. Come on, that thing is just so wicked cool how these things look. You can't not love those. So that, my friends, is pretty much a tour of that gun. You know, as stated earlier, this is one of those guns that I feel like everyone should have in their collection. If you're coming to me and you said, hey, look, I'm a Glock and an AR guy, which those two things really go hand in hand. Chances are, if you like to shoot Glocks, you also like to shoot ARs and vice versa. Can't explain why that's the case. It just kind of is. Two things that work and I love, just, you know, they tend to go hand in hand. The reason I tell you, if someone came to me and they're like, I'm thinking about getting into AKs, which everyone should have an AK in their collection. It's kind of like having a revolver or like a shot. Well, nah, fuck shotguns. But you know, like everyone should have an AK. And if you said, hey, look, I don't know that I'm going to get into this, but like, tell me one thing to go get. I'd say, look, man, if you want to go just straight iconic, in my opinion, you got to get a Krink. Okay, it's just one of those things. I think one of the first times where I saw it and I was like, I gotta have one of those. You guys remember the Purge that had, oh man, Grillo in it, right? And Grillo, he's like going out on the streets, and I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. Fun fact, I'm a total sucker for the Purge movies. There's a few things in life that I'm a real sucker for. The Purge movies, I don't care. Fast and Furious fucking 23, yeah, I'll be there opening night. I don't give a shit. Vin Diesel is now racing wheelchairs in a nursing home. Fucking pay. How much is the ticket? How much is the ticket, guys? Do I have to sit in the front row? I'm willing to do it. I have a few guilty pleasures.
You're touching the wood.
Chris proceeds to stuff me, right?
The Purge movies, when I saw Grillo running, he had like more of a traditional Krink from what I remember off the top of my head. I was like, dude, I think on Purge night, that's the kind of shit you want. Because the cool thing about something like this, it's shooting 7.62 by 39, and that's a fat little thick round, right? And what's cool about it is it's a very good round for a short barrel rifle because it doesn't lose much velocity on those shorter barrels. So I can have a 10-inch barrel on this little shorty gun, and which is totally a duplicate statement. A shorty gun that's a 10-inch barrel. Yeah, no shit, dumbass. Those are the same thing. But you can take that 7.62 and it's not going to lose much. Okay, so it's a really good round to run as a short gun. And I've heard dudes who I've known who ran stuff like this overseas, and they were like, you know, guys were running 300 Blackout. And I mean, really, hey, if you love the manual of arms of ARs, cool, 300 Blackout might be a really good choice if you wanted something that's going to do better from a short barrel rifle that's still going to put some dudes down. The rounds are going to be kind of similar. And again, I know people are going to ding me for that in comments and tell me the little micro differences and all this kind of shit. Cool, I get it. But like, hey, look, if you're looking for that thick round, you can run in a short barrel rifle. If you love ARs, cool, 300 Blackout is probably your winner. The con of that is, hey, at this current moment, it's about $130 a round. So as stated in a previous SR30 CAC video, hey, you're gonna need to sell something, probably a child, in order to afford to run a lot of 300 Blackout versus something like 7.62 by 39 that it's about as cheap a rifle round as you're gonna get. Because by the way, I don't run nice ammo through my AKs. I just run some Wolf or, yeah, usually like Wolf, just steel case kind of dog shit ammo, but it works. And the guns have no issue with it. They simply run it. So this is one of those things that like, look, you should have one. And if you can only have one, this is such a good pick, whether it's this or Arsenal or Meridian. In all fairness, makes a really pimp, that little dirty pistol that they make, SBR, that shit. Oof, that is probably my next AK purchase. I know Jim Fuller's getting back in the game. There's Krebs, like there's there's a company called Occam Defense that I've been in touch with. They're just getting going in the AK game, supposedly good stuff. So look, there's plenty of good options. It's a relatively small market compared to the AR market, but man, I gotta tell you, there's just some guns that you should have, and this is one of them. And it's got the benefit you can make it really small, right? Which is kind of like a sub gun or a honey badger or whatever. Like they're pretty much the same size, guys, and same size, guys. Jake's doing rhymes today. So I get it. There's no bolt hold open on the last round on AKs. There's all kinds of shit that I get it. It's archaic, and I concede all of that to you. But I love them, you know, and there's things that you love in life that you know are flawed. You just love them anyway, you know. I'm flawed. Someday someone will love me. That day is not, well, save that for a different video, or a therapist or whatever. But look, you should have one. You should have one. I don't really care where you get one from. Just get it. Stimulus funds, I don't know if they're still coming, or if is everyone still living off their $1,200 that was supposed to last us like 12 months or whatever? We still rocking with that plan, or how's that working right now? I don't know. Anyway, if you get another 12 hundo, maybe. So anyway, hope this has been helpful, boys and girls, and to the families out there, stay healthy, stay safe, Stay safe, wear your masks and antibacterial, everything that you own, even if it's only you in your house, antibacterial wipe the shit out of that. And I hope everyone's having a nice day, and bye.
If you buy a house with 1911 Syndicate, they'll give you your very own bald eagle.
Hold up. Where did you hear that?
Well, it just felt right, so I went with it.
Can we legally do that? We'll look into it.
1911 Syndicate. They attack your real estate goals like an eagle.